Record to the cloud. Okay, you guys are being recorded.
Good evening. We call this special meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission Subdivision Regulations Review Subcommittee to order. It is Monday, June 14th at 7:03 p.m. and we are meeting via Zoom. And we will continue with our review and this. I guess I'll do, the agenda says a call of orders or a roll call, so I will do a roll call. Mr. Poplawski.
Dave Poplawski, present.
Mr. Hill.
Alvin Hill, present.
Mr. Santos.
Ryan Santos, present.
And I don't believe I need to seat alternates as the entire membership is a member of the subcommittee.
Is represented.
Yeah, that's been our convention thus far, Joe.
Great. So item 2, review and discussion of subdivision regulations. We are picking up with Article 4, Section 3E, street planning.
Hello. Hold on, I'm just accounting for the other folks who are attending since I am also your secretary this evening. Okay, everything is good. It's only Janet. Hi, Janet. Not that anybody would ever say only Janet.
Hello,
Thanks for joining us tonight.
you're welcome.
And Janet did send me some stuff this afternoon regarding shared driveways in case we get that far. So maybe we can revisit that, look at that as well. But let's just do as we have done. Starting right here with letter E, street planning, and proposed comment by Alvin, which I actually do think is a practical one for several of the sections coming up, that this is a separate section or at least a separate subsection between this, because all the letters, I was looking at it this afternoon, relate to street planning. So we have street planning and then street lines as the flow is not correct.
Right.
So I'm just gonna make a note here. Agreed and will amend. That's an easy one. I like it when we get an easy one right off the bat, but we'll read it along anyway. Proposed streets and rights of way shall be planned in such a manner as to provide safe and convenient access to proposed lots with due consideration for accomplishing an attractive layout and development of the land in the subdivision and the neighborhood. Seems pretty straightforward. Streets should in general follow the contour of the land, bear a logical relationship to the topography, and shall have a location and grade which preserves the natural features in the subdivision and which enhance property values in the neighborhood. I'm surprised nobody else picked up on this, but all natural features shall be preserved where so required by the commission. And I struck all because the very nature of construction means that some of the natural features will be removed.
Right. Tira, one thing I've got.
Yep.
Attractive layout. Is that language that gets us in trouble?
It's whether it gets us in trouble or not, I don't know, but it is certainly subjective, which is something we've been trying to sort of peel out.
Right. I'm thinking of like character, when we do character of the neighborhood business and.
Right. And I think that the thing on character is one of the pieces that did pass in the recent legislation. Some of the pieces that were proposed did not, but I think that the removal of character as being subjective and potentially being used in discriminatory ways was one of the changes that came through. I won't say I'm 100% on that, but I'm pretty sure. But attractive. So let's read through this sentence. Proposed streets and rights of way shall be planned in such a manner as to provide safe and convenient access to proposed lots. Okay, that's okay. With due consideration for accomplishing an attractive layout. Yeah.
But how about the word is appropriate the same? I mean, because that's what
Well-
we're trying to do is something that's appropriate, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I want some kind of synonym for logical, right?
Yeah.
But
Constructive.
I'm gonna toss logical in there for
Yeah,
the moment, but I don't think that's the one either. I'm just gonna highlight this, maybe think about that.
I like the word logical. I don't have a problem with that.
But I'm not sure it conveys much, is the
Yeah.
only thing. I mean, I think it's better than attractive. All right, I'm just gonna leave that like that.
But
for
this
now.
one's a hard one because you're trying to encompass. I can think of like a windy road or crazy Z road or something. I mean, that's not logical, right?
Well, it's logical if the contours of the land are winding.
Yeah.
And but I think I see where you're getting but that's also attractive, like the winding country road.
Yeah.
Or maybe that's not what you're getting at, but that's
Well,
what I thought.
I was more of the line of like, I think we're trying to cover too much with a single word where logical, I think just makes generally good sense to put
How
there.
about a straight layout and accomplishing a straight layout?
But again, going back to if we're talking about natural contours of the land, that may not be applicable. Well, I'll leave this here. I'll revisit this
Yeah.
later. Okay, streets should in general follow the contour, right here, should in general follow the contour of the land, bear a logical relationship to the
Yeah, look at that.
topography. Look at that right there. And shall have a location and grade which preserves the natural features in the subdivision and which enhance property values in the neighborhood. And then purging all, and then natural features shall be preserved where so required by the commission. Okay, all right, so we'll leave logical then, that
Yeah.
is consistent with the later document. Currently letter F, but again, I'm going to deal with the numbering later. Street lines on each side of a proposed street shall be parallel or shall be concentric arcs, except at intersections and turnarounds designed in accordance with the road ordinance and these regulations. No street right-of-way shall be widened beyond the minimum width specified in the road ordinance and these regulations for the purpose of securing additional street frontage for proposed lots. And I dropped this comment in just this afternoon. What is the purpose of this prohibition? If it were possible that in the construction of a subdivision, an existing parcel would be made more conforming by adding street frontage, why would you, which is the only situation I can imagine where that applies, why wouldn't you want it to be more conforming? Mind you, I don't think anybody would ever do this, right? I don't think anybody would ever widen beyond the minimum width they were asked to do.
Is it supposed to be lengthen, not widen?
I can tell you why, if you would like to know.
I would like to know, Janet.
It's on cul-de-sacs because, you take the frontage at the setback line. So if there's a cul-de-sac and you make the road right away much bigger, then you're on such an arc that you get a lot more length.
Okay, so we now have the instance in which it is possible. Are you saying that that is not something that should be permitted?
I don't have an opinion either way. I'm just telling you why I think it ended up in the regulations.
Okay. All right, well, it's helpful to know why, because I was reading this and couldn't make heads or tails of it. But what do you guys think?
So just so I'm clear on visually, so that would be a cul-de-sac turnaround that just would be extremely wide and awkward to get road frontage. That's pretty much what you're saying, right, Janet?
Well, I guess, like, instead of the town owning, 15 feet beyond the edge of the pavement, if it's a public road, then the town might own 40 feet beyond the
Yeah.
edge of the pavement. And that's something a developer might choose to do, so we can squeeze in one more lot on a
Yeah,
cul-de-sac.
yeah. I understand.
Okay, so with that clarification, what do you guys think about this?
I think it makes sense then.
Okay.
Leave it in.
All right, so I'm gonna delete the comment. Keep having to move this participant bar around.
So Janet, should it be length and width widened?
What,
I can understand the widen. I'm not sure how somebody could lengthen, really. I'm
It's okay. I'm just thinking you're widening the cul-de-sac, but you could also lengthen it with a gradual sweep into the cul-de-sac as well.
I mean, possibly that just becomes, is that a lengthening or is that a widening?
Yeah, so Dave's going like this. You're just making it a lot longer, right? Like long sweeping cul-de-sac instead of like and it's really, really
Yeah,
wide.
like instead of the rainbow at the end, it's a long.
Yeah.
Well, actually, that can be desirable sometimes, because if you have not a circle of pavement, if you want an island and a teardrop for stormwater management, then sometimes, that's how it's accomplished. It's really like a road that makes a circle on itself.
Yeah.
And that's usually considered pretty legitimate versus just having the traditional round circle of pavement and then having the property lines be like 40 feet
Yeah.
away.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand. Thanks, Janet.
Sure.
I knew we'd be happy that Janet was coming in today. Okay, so we will keep that as written for the time being. Existing streets, proposed subdivision. Well, there were no comments here. We've been trying to save time by just going to comments, but I will read through everything if you guys want, either way. Yes, no?
I'm okay with just going with the comments if you want.
Okay. Okay, so down to item 4 under existing streets. Subdivisions on both sides of an unimproved or impassable town road shall improve said road to conform to the standards for new roads proposed for town acceptance to the nearest intersection with an improved road. And out here we have, how does this align with the desire to avoid new roads for the town? What is the town's implied burden when a subdivision is proposed on a road recognized by the town but not maintained? And there are some of those, bizarrely. And then here's a comment from Dave Held. See comments above about the legal authority to require offsite road improvements. We'd have to scroll up to see that full comment, but I know it was made earlier. So let's look at that now. Let's read it through again carefully. Subdivisions on both sides of an unimproved or impassable town road shall improve said road to conform to the standards for new roads proposed for town acceptance to the nearest intersection with an improved town road.
Tira, or anyone, I guess, really, would this comment, I'm not sure why it doesn't apply to parts 2 and 3 as well.
Yeah, so maybe we should read this whole thing. I'm just going to read the whole thing. Existing streets. 1, we always have such a slow start on these. Proposed subdivisions abutting an existing town street or state highway shall provide for proper widening of the right-of-way of such street or highway to the width appropriate for the classification, given each such street or highway by the commission in accordance with the requirements of the town road ordinance and these regulations. Drainage and other improvements made necessary by the subdivision shall be constructed in the existing town street as required by the road ordinance and these regulations. All right, well, I feel like the second sentence is fine there, regardless. Proposed subdivisions abutting an existing town shall provide.
Yeah, one seems straightforward and
Yeah.
rational to me.
Okay, I kind of think so too. Anybody else here? I feel like every
Well-
time we go into these subdivision regulations, they bite us with new things that are horrible.
Here, I'm thinking to Madison Avenue, and, we're talking about drainage and improvements to the existing town street. Do we need to call out, because we call out State Highway up top? So does it need to be called out further down for the drainage, or does it matter?
I see what you mean.
Yeah, I kind of see what you mean, Dave. Oh, Jason, we've got another guest coming in. Welcome, Jason LaValle.
And maybe the state permit covers that. I'm not, just the way it's called out up top.
Yeah. Do we want to be consistent throughout? Is that what you're generally just saying?
Yes.
Yeah. Should be constructed in the existing. Yeah, I mean, that makes the logic consistent internally, so. Participant window thing is getting in my way wherever I put it.
And then you might have to, because it talks about the road ordinance, you might have to just insert like state DOT regs or something of that nature in there. As required by the road ordinance and DOT regulations or something.
Okay. I've got that. We generally happy with that, with that change, or with those two changes? Yeah, okay. Item 2, subdivision on one side of an existing or Jesus Christ, of an existing impassable or unimproved town road shall improve said road to substantially conform to the standards for new roads proposed for town acceptance to the nearest intersection with an improved town road. This is such a word soup. And I don't think it's incorrect necessarily, but I keep coming back to how do we start to articulate the difference between town accepted and therefore town maintained roads and private rights of way and shared drives. And I feel like somewhere in here we have to start attacking that, but I'm not totally sure where. Subdivision on one side of an existing shall improve said road. I don't know, construction guy?
Well, I agree with your statement that somewhere along the line here, we do have to make those delineations for sure. I'm just not understanding the last like 4 words. Why does it have to say with an improved town road? I feel like it gets kind of fumbly with adding that. Proposed town acceptance to the nearest intersection, period. Why does it need to have that with an improved town road? Am I missing something?
I think it's probably on the off chance that, say you've got a gravel or a dirt road that
So it just needs
intersects
to
a couple of
intersect with
other
another, yeah, it just needs to
gravel or
intersect
dirt
with
roads.
another town road.
Yeah.
It's already improved.
So like your mother-in-law's, Brian, down on
Yeah,
Little
Fernwood.
Schoolhouse, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, you'd be repaving substantial to get to the intersection down there.
Yeah, no, I know. It's just like it doesn't intersect. It doesn't intersect for like a mile.
Here, is there a map of the, I'm just thinking of that area there, but I mean, there's so many of those roads, like you said, that need to be classified, but is there a map that indicates all of that, or is when someone comes in, they learn?
Well, kind of the latter. What we have is a list of those roads. Do I have it in my book?
I know Janet knows where they all are.
Actually, not that much since people don't develop on them that much.
Yeah,
We have a paper list of those roads, which I thought I had in my book, but I know Cindy
Yes.
has in her
Cindy
copy.
gave it to me because I asked for that. I just
Yeah.
haven't done anything with it, but yeah. It does exist, Dave.
okay. I'll get that from Cindy. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no, I'll forward it to you. I have it already.
Yeah,
Okay.
I probably have it in an e-file. I just don't happen to have stuck it in my book with the regs. And you know, part of the difficulty here, or the challenge, is just that, right? We know that there are these quirky little roads that exist out there, and they come and they cause problems all the time. And some of these subdivision regulations appear to me to have been written with the intent of getting those possibly to be compliant someday, maybe, with the idea that somebody is going to subdivide, but most of them are in highly developed areas. So I don't know that that actually ends up obtaining.
Tier, I agree with you. I mean, impassable or unimproved, if it's not on that defined list, it really needs to be clarified. You know, I know that unimproved, but impassable, I mean, I'm sure there's not an impassable road list.
No, but I do think there are a couple of impassable roads.
For sure.
In fact, there's one that just came up, which I think is Owen Adams. Does that sound right? There's a section of it
Yeah.
which is impassable, is owned by the town, and is, you know, being proposed for perhaps for discontinuation. But as of this moment, it is an impassable town road, whether it's formally classified that way or not. In point of fact, that's what it is. At least in a portion.
Kind of like that one that goes up to the airline trail for that one gentleman who wanted to improve, didn't want to have to improve the whole road.
Yeah.
Plum Road.
Merrimack,
Oh,
Merrimack, the
Yes.
Merricks, the Merricks.
The
Yeah.
Merrick's, yes, that was impassable. Yeah.
Right. So, and this is part of where I think we've seen this stuff comes back and makes it impossible for people to do reasonable development, right? I mean, even of their own personal lots. And look, the standard that we are holding the Merricks to right now has been contentious for them, contentious for us, and doesn't necessarily provide a lot of value to the homeowner. It's just to follow the letter of our requirements. So, you know, it's not even a hypothetical. It's an example that exists that I would suggest has been made much more difficult, and not to anybody's benefit, really. So what do we want to do? And is it here or is it somewhere else?
Dave, just for an example, just to give me a visual. So my mother-in-law is Fernwood, right? And then it's Jezersky Lane. Jezersky Lane, I think, is a paved town road, right? That becomes a dirt road right before my mother-in-law's place, but it's still a town road, right?
Yes.
We can find out if it's town road right now, actually. Hold
Yeah,
on
So
one
that's why
second.
I'm in support of it just saying a town road.
Well, that's okay, because
Yeah.
sometimes I get surprised by what is and isn't. So let's go to the
While
parts.
Tira's looking that up, I just sent all you guys the unapproved streets list from Cindy.
Thanks, Brian. What's your mother-in-law's address?
5 Fernwood Avenue or Lane or something like that.
Okay, so it does come up in the parcel map. So it is a town road, that I can tell you.
Fernwood is?
Yep.
Yeah, so that would have to be, say they were coming off the end of Fernwood, they'd have to fix Fernwood. All
Yeah.
the way down to Jezersky.
All the way to Jezersky. I mean, that's
Yeah.
a long way.
Yeah,
No small potatoes. So, yeah, Jezersky's Lane is not even, I mean, that's kind of a beat up road as it is.
So what you're saying is that Center Street is not a town road?
I've seen the plow Center Street.
I mean, it comes up, this is another one, it comes up in the parcel map, which means that the parcel map thinks it exists as a town road.
Yeah, I've seen the town plowing it, so.
And now I think about it, I think they do plow my mother-in-law there.
On the dirt,
Yeah, and her neighbor comes over and helps out with it because it is a pretty beat up. I mean, it's a dirt road. So anyway,
as it would be.
Yeah.
So anyway, so here we are back at the fundamental question, which is, you know, do these things work? Do they make sense for somebody wanting to, of course, here is in subdivision. In the case of the Merrick property, they were applying the rules of the subdivision because that's where the road standards and stuff were articulated to a single person's property.
yeah. Well, I also think their situation is a little different because they were connecting to that cul-de-sac, right? They were extending the cul-de-sac. Is that correct? I
Something
can't
like
remember.
that.
Something like that.
They were extending beyond a cul-de-sac that existed.
Yeah, I think there's a situation that we're talking about right now with, you know, let's just pretend that my mother-in-law's road, you know, somebody makes a subdivision back there. I think it's a little ridiculous for us to say, oh yeah, you have to now bring up all those other roads to get to your subdivision. I don't know if I agree with that.
Well, all right. So let's say that let's go back to what it said. Because
Yeah,
I think that this so to an improved town road. So say that, you know, the property behind Fernwood wants to connect and the nearest town road is Fernwood, but that is not, as you say, improved, then that means they're responsible for that. That seems unlikely. So
Yeah.
I think this we can now logically say should come out.
Yeah.
All right. So, and in fact, I'm going to do it this way so I know what I'm doing tomorrow. I'm going to strike through. Okay.
I will say, just in pure principle, that I think it would look a lot nicer. Clearly, I think we would all agree with that, but I feel like it's also something that we shouldn't be pushing because I think we'd get a lot of pushback to begin with if we were telling them, oh yeah, you got to improve the mile worth of additional road to do your subdivision. I think that's just flat out unfair.
Well, and I also think that that might be part of what Dave Held is commenting on here is the limits of how much you can legally ask somebody to improve beyond the property that they themselves own.
Yeah.
Was the intent that if town vehicles had to maintain the subdivision roads, they needed to be able to get to the subdivision roads in a efficient manner?
I'm sure that was part of it.
Sure, but it's already like we looked up with Fernwood, it's an approved road. We should be the one paving it right now and getting it ready to go.
I think it's the increased traffic too. I mean, if you're putting 10 house lots up in Fernwood, you know, leading into a beat up old road, you're just creating more. So I can see the intent behind it from that. And this is probably why nothing's developed probably on Fernwood. I mean, there's all those little postage stamp lots up there and everything. So I could see the reasoning behind it. I'm on the fence.
All right. So what's number 3 about there? Because I keep on rereading it over and over. Is that something else that we can maybe hang our hat have subdivisions on the side opposite an unapproved or impassable town road shall require application of 3 inches of bituminous concrete pavement? Is that more?
What's curious to me is that this is so specific about what the application is, whereas the other is so open. It seems a little rando, just dropped in like that. Subdivisions on the side opposite. I mean, across the street from, I mean, what is opposite in this case? On one side of, I mean, I'm having trouble visualizing all these things right off the bat. subdivision on one side of an existing impassable or unimproved town road. Okay, that means I guess that it's got frontage on this impassable or unimproved town road, or a border is on this impassable, unimproved or town road. But what about on the side opposite? What does that even mean? Across the street from, at parallel, at T?
Makes no sense.
Well, the second one, we should just delete one side to say subdivisions on an existing impassable or unimproved town road, right? Why limit to one side?
Yeah.
They did that Or has both sides, if they're doing it on both sides.
How about, hold on, let me go back to this.
You know, bordering and existing.
Does that make more sense? And then I think we don't need this at all. Or we get rid of this and actually combine these two. If what they really want is to tell you that you've got to put 3 inches of bituminous concrete pavement down,
as well as installation of required curbing and drainage.
Now, my question to this is, they're being very specific here, which I think we generally try to avoid, because would this supersede the town ordinance? And what is the road standard? Is it really 3 inches? I don't think it is, right?
well, what this is saying is that it's constructed in 2 courses per town road ordinance with 3 inches of bituminous concrete pavement. That's how so it's repeating the town road ordinance.
It should just say shall require bituminous concrete pavement in accordance with the town road ordinance. So we don't have to keep on looking at this and saying, oh, we need to update it 3 inches, 4 inches.
Yeah.
It should just refer to that document. And that's what you're doing. Yeah, exactly. There you go. But what is this referring to? I'm sorry, I must have missed something there. You struck the whole beginning, shall require application of concrete pavement.
Well, I'm just saying, if this is something that needed to be articulated for subdivisions on the side opposite, which nobody even knows what it means.
Yeah.
If the point of this was just to say that it needs to have bituminous concrete pavement per the town road ordinance, why isn't that up here? Is this just one statement?
Yeah, it's like, okay, if you want whatever, a half a mile of road, you now are required to have an additional concrete pavement or something like that. I don't know. I understand what you're saying. I don't know the application of it.
Oh, it looks like Jason LaValle dialed in and then dropped out. I was going to invite him to make comments from his experience as well, but he's not there. All right, so let's read this through now. Number 2, as if it was all one thing. Subdivision, a subdivision bordered a subdivision. A subdivision bordered by an existing impassable or unimproved town road shall improve said road to substantially conform to the standards for new roads proposed for town acceptance to the nearest intersection with a town road. And shall require application of bituminous concrete pavement constructed per town road ordinance, and these regulations to, this seems redundant even. I think we don't need anything in number 3.
Yeah, I agree. Strike it.
It flows a lot better.
Because this, if anything, it's redundant.
Yeah, because you're saying it up there. Town road shall improve said road to substantially conform to the standards of the new roads proposed.
Okay. All right. Moving on. Subdivisions on both sides of an unimproved. Oh my God. So we just don't even need any of this crap.
No,
But we're still left with the existential question of how do we get private roads preferred in here, but let's keep going, and then maybe we can figure it out later. Subdivisions on existing private roads. No subdivision will be approved on an existing private road unless it meets either of the following requirements. 1, road improved to conform to standards for new private roads, and association is set up to maintain said roads. 2, road improved to standards for new town road and accepted by the town. So I know I had a sidebar comment here. And this is just my suggestion to amend the language to make it a little friendlier. In order for a subdivision proposed on an existing private road to be approved, one of these conditions must be met. The existing private road shall be improved to conform to the standards for new private roads, and an association shall be established to maintain said road. And then the existing private road, or the existing private road shall be demonstrated to conform to the standards for new private roads to the satisfaction of the Director of Public Works. I thought that was clearer. What do you guys think?
Sounds good to me.
All right.
Yeah, and less confrontational.
You think it's more confrontational?
No,
Or you
I think it's less.
you think it's less confrontational?
Yeah,
I think it's less.
Okay. All right. So that I think we're okay with. Access. Each street, and I've suggested shared drive or street, proposed on a plan of subdivision shall connect with an, what is this doing here? Shall connect with an existing town road or state highway or a street in a subdivision approved by the commission, or with a proposed street in the subdivision connecting with an existing town road or state highway approved by the commission. Streets shall be designed to establish building lots at or above the grade of the street wherever possible. Lot lines shall be laid out so as not to cross town boundary lines. No portion of any proposed lot which is outside the boundaries of the town of Thompson may be considered for the purposes of these regulations. Each lot proposed on the plan of subdivision shall have access to the town of Thompson roadway system without requiring travel out of the boundaries of the town of Thompson. And we have a comment here from Dave Held, which is why Thompson doesn't exist in a vacuum, and there are lots of roads between Thompson and abutting towns. I would suggest allowing roads to be laid out in whatever way makes the most sense without restrictions like this. So I think he definitely has a point here. We did already sort of deal with lot lines and town boundary lines in an earlier section.
yeah, I'm not sure what it does here.
I think that was put in because of school buses, because if somebody only has like access in Webster, Massachusetts, and there's one child in a house and the school bus driver can't get there from Thompson and they have to drive all the way through multiple streets in another town to go get that child, it's inefficient. That's what I was told 20 years ago, why they put that in.
I think there's roadway construction too. I mean, if you're going from, Thompson into Webster, you have different road construction, you have different electric feeds, you have, different house feeds.
Right.
Yeah, different
Exactly,
maintenance in
the
wintertime.
utilities, yes.
Your tax, the taxes, I speak from experience. My father built on the Massachusetts-Connecticut line in Bonnet Acres just to be funny at the time, but became a host of problems from financing to, so there's a lot of good not allowing to transgress into the other towns.
So what needs to be articulated, I think, based on this, and maybe this sentence does articulate it, that if a subdivision is proposed within Thompson, then you must be able to get in and out of it within Thompson. But that doesn't preclude that you could get in and out of it from Webster or Woodstock or,
Dudley.
right. So does this just say what it means to say? And I think that's sort of the nature of Dave's comment, perhaps, without requiring, it's this piece.
Right, it doesn't say that it doesn't prohibit a road to another town. It just, you have to have access to Thompson through Thompson.
Yeah. Yeah, possibly this is okay.
I think it is.
All right, I'm going to delete Dave's comment.
My suggestion, though, on that thing, you know, that sentence that says streets shall be designed to establish building lots at or above the grade of the street, that is in conflict with the road shall follow the contour of the land. Because if the road follows the contour of the land, then by the very nature, one side of the road is going to be above and the other side is going to be below.
Whenever there's substantial topography. Right. So streets shall be designed to establish building lots at or above. And then it's got this wherever possible. So is it just an unnecessary statement? I mean, you wouldn't want all the lots in a subdivision to be built in a hollow. I mean, it would be bad design, but if we're not telling you you can't do it, you could submit a bad design.
Yeah, I mean, I like you know, the way you pointed out, wherever possible, I think I don't have a problem with that sentence.
And neither do I.
Okay. And then this, we did deal with elsewhere.
Yeah, it's already said in a place where it seems to make more sense to say it, right?
Right, and that's really not about access. So I'm gonna strike here because it's already been articulated. Same thing here. No portion of any proposed lot which is outside the boundaries of the town of Thompson may be considered for that doesn't even make any sense in terms of access. Note here. Okay. Intersections. The following standards shall apply to street intersections. 1, except where impractical because of topography or other conditions, all streets shall intersect so that for a distance of at least 100 feet, the street is at right angles to the street it intersects. 2, in no event shall an intersection be allowed where the angle of intersection is less than 75 degrees within 100 feet of the intersection. 3, no more than 2 streets shall intersect at one point. Intersections shall be spaced not less than 300 feet apart, except when, in the opinion of the commission, conditions are presented with which justify a variation from this requirement. 4, if required by the commission, an intersection grading plan with a scale of 1 inch to 10 feet shall be shown on the plans. Existing and proposed contour lines shall be shown at 1 foot intervals. Anybody have anything to say here?
I think it made sense.
It
Yeah.
seems reasonable.
I mean, I know why intersections should be at right angles, so I'm okay with that. A right angle is a safe angle. Okay, all right, moving on. Street names, I don't think we need anything there. Scheduling. And I'm going to lean on the construction and engineer types here because I have nothing to say with this. The subgrade and subbase of any street, together with all drainage required for the street, shall be completed in accordance with the Town of Thompson Road Ordinance and these regulations. And if applicable, any permit issued by the Inland Wetland Commission prior to approval of an application for certificate of occupancy for any structure on or served by such street. Pavement base courses and surface courses and curbs shall be completed in accordance with the road ordinance and these regulations before application for town acceptance of any street. I thought that was okay.
Yeah.
But,
Fine with me.
yeah.
Yep.
All right. Easements for access to and use of land or other necessary rights or restrictions of use of land outside of a street right of way shall be provided as required or approved by the commission and may be shown on the record subdivision map with adequate survey information so that the land subject to easement may be accurately located by field survey. Easements may be required in the following types of cases as applicable to the particular subdivision. 1, for access to bridges and culverts by construction and maintenance equipment shall not be less than 20 feet wide. Well, this might be accurate, but that's terrible grammar. God, it's the same construction throughout. For stormwater pipes and water mains and sanitary sewers and appurtenances, any such easements shall be not less than 20 feet wide. For use and access to stormwater basins and fire ponds shall not be less than 20 feet wide. For identification of points or areas of storm drainage spillage rights from streets when storm drainage conduits are not to be installed. Temporary construction easements for grading and other construction work in the front 25 feet of each lot along a proposed street. Sightline easements across corners of lots at all street intersections to assure safe line of sight on the street to remove obstructions to regrading within the easement area. Easements at least 10 feet in width for pedestrian ways to open spaces, parks, playgrounds, schools, and other public or semi-public places where the street system does not conform to a convenient pattern of pedestrian circulation. For bikeways, non-motor or horse riding trails as part of a plan and program for a neighborhood. I have a sidebar comment there, but I'll hold it for now. Where the right-of-way of any highway adjoining a proposed subdivision is less than 50 feet wide, or where any proposed subdivision has frontage on the inside of any curve in a town highway, the commission may require an easement for highway purposes to allow widening or straightening such town highway of not less than 25 feet from the center line of the road. Conservation easements. First of all, this whole thing is a grammatical nightmare. I don't really know what any of these statements is saying. Or I might understand what some of them are saying, but they're so wildly inconsistent in their construction that it's hard to follow.
Yeah, it's just very scattered, for sure.
Easements may be required in the following types of case. Well, first of all, in the following cases. As applicable to the particular subdivision.
Would a table help here?
Maybe. Gonna add that as a possible note.
You could split out all the, in a list view, because almost every single thing has a 20-foot wide
Well, the
easement.
first three do, for sure.
And number
and-
4 refers to like rights to drain, so there usually isn't a width on that.
I have a general question about number 4, maybe Janet can help me. It says streets when storm drainage conduits are not to be installed. I've never heard of storm drainage systems be referred to as a conduit. I would refer to it as a pipe or a piping system. But
Yeah, I think you're right. Pipe is better,
yeah,
but I think they're referring to like a paved leak off. If you have a paved, you could have a drainage easement or a right to drain coming from like a paved leak off or a swale. It doesn't have
yeah,
to just be
swale.
a
It doesn't
pipe,
have to be a pipe. Yeah.
right?
You could just delete the word conduit. Just say when storm drainages are not installed, or drainage system, because a swale could be a system.
So let's try this again. Easements may be required in the following cases as applicable to the particular subdivision. And then we have these three things where the easements shall not be less than 20 feet wide. Okay, that's one group. Easements may be required for identification of points. Okay, so it makes a little more sense if you put the statement in front of it. Easements may be required in the following case. For temporary construction easements for grading and other construction work in the front 25 feet of each lot along a proposed street. Sightline easements across corners of lots at all street intersections to assure safe line of sight on the street. It's just such a mess.
Yeah.
You might be right, Joe. Maybe I'll try to make a table out of this somehow.
Yeah, not to schlep more work on you, but if philosophically and regulatorily we don't have any issues here, it might make more sense to keep moving.
Yeah, okay. I'm okay with that. I think this is a language issue more than are the regulations themselves correct? So,
Except for that one.
well, it's just a sidebar comment, and I just didn't like the language for bikeways, non-motor or horse riding trails as part of a plan and program for a neighborhood. And then my comment, it just sort of stuck out at me. Seems like an odd term. Wouldn't a path system just be considered part of the subdivision and its open space plan, a program for a neighborhood?
Yeah. Gotcha.
For bikeways or horse riding trails as part of.
I think it's, if the town is maintaining it, or has to access that path going to another area or something.
Janet, what did you have to show on the Donovan Drive? Open space, walkways, pathways.
Well, the easement is significantly wider than the 10 feet. I feel like that number 7, 10-foot width should be 20 along with the others. But there was, it shared some drainage, so there's just a road that goes down with an access easement, and it opened up into a large area of conservation land where you did, many, many acres. I forget, 20 acres. So you didn't need a 10-foot easement. You just had to you had to get from the road to the conservation land, and it was at least 20, maybe 30 feet easement.
I kind of feel like 7 and 8 here can actually just be combined. Easements at least 20, let's use 20 feet in width for pedestrian ways to open spaces, parks, playgrounds, schools, and other public or semi-public places where the street system does not conform to a convenient pattern of pedestrian circulation, and for bikeways or horse riding trails. I don't know why these two things are separate.
Yeah, you can combine them. Just put bikeways and horse riding trails.
Yeah. Combine. Okay. Where the right of way of any highway, okay, we already we said we liked the language for this stuff, I think, right? So it's just a matter of putting it in a more intelligent form. Okay. Hey, guys, we got through almost 2 pages in an hour. We are cruising.
Well, I gotta be honest, I'm a little disappointed. I thought we were gonna start with interior lots.
It's on the agenda
Okay, very
where we
good,
were
very good.
starting.
Okay, all right, well, sorry.
Maybe we'll get there. I can't wait for that discussion.
I'm pumped up about it.
Easements for pipe systems. Easements may also be required for stormwater pipes and facilities that may need to be installed in the future to serve undeveloped land within the watershed that normally drains across the area of the proposed subdivision. Easements may also be required where natural prescriptive drainage rights must be altered by land subdivision. Easements for pipe systems shall be located so that the pipe is positioned at least 5 feet from the boundary of such easement unless otherwise directed by the commission. I had no issues there, but I'm not the expert. Everybody find that reasonable? Okay.
Yeah,
moving on.
sounds good to me.
Okay. Here's one of our fun topics, driveways. One of my favorites. Safe driveway entrances with adequate sightlines for safe vehicle entry onto a street shall be required and adequate turnarounds within the lot provided. Okay. No issues there. Driveways to individual lots or interior lots shall be so located, designed, and constructed as to prevent erosion and excessive road drainage onto the traveled way. Okay.
Interior lots, Brian.
Yeah, I know it. There it is.
Striking number 3, obviously there shall be no shared drives. We've already expressed in our zoning regulations that there shall be shared drives. So to hell with you. Okay, here we go. The driveway access to interior lots shall be 50 feet wide. If, however, the area of such lot shall exceed twice the area requirements of the zone in which the area is located, such right of access to said area shall be at least 50 feet wide, and 20 feet wide sloping right areas shall be reserved on the lots adjacent to the access if considered necessary by the commission. Oy.
What the hell is that 20 feet? What
Yeah,
the hell is
20
that?
feet wide sloping. What's that all about?
Yeah, I don't think anybody knows.
Yeah, I think I know.
Okay.
I mean,
Nice.
it's your grading easement. The assumption here is that in the future, there'll be a re-subdivision of the land at the end, and you might have to put in a wider road or a private road, and so you need grading rights on the adjacent lots. So you don't want somebody to put their well or septic system, you know, right up to the property line.
Okay.
That's the intent.
Okay, so here's Dave Held's comment on same. The provision was to allow future development of a town road. I would get rid of this requirement if there's no desire for new town roads anyway. I would suggest a minimum width for the access strip of 25 feet for a single lot and 50 feet for 2 or more lots. I would also reword this since it could be implied that you have to build the actual traveled portion of the driveway 50 feet wide. I would say that I find his observations logical.
I will say this, when I was in mid-purchase of my house, the topic of the 25-foot and 50-foot wide driveways came up because there's an easement on my property to get to the electrical transformer, which forced my neighbor to have a 25-foot mini section of his driveway. The rest of it was 50 and 50 on both sides. That came up quite a bit. And I will say, I think 25 was also a problem because of emergency vehicles require greater than 25. So that's why I think there's a standard for 50. So I think the 25 is probably too skinny. Do you know anything about that, Alvin, with emergency vehicles? Like the minimum for, is it 25 for like ambulances and stuff like that? Fire trucks?
maybe for fire trucks, not for ambulances.
I just meant any emergency vehicle. I don't know. Mahan brought that up to me. That was a long time ago, obviously. So I think I'm in disagreement with keeping it, letting it go to 25. I would say 50 is probably the standard. I think it just looks nicer.
Janet, this is actually relevant to some of the stuff that you sent me today, I think. What's your feelings here?
Well, I think like Brooklyn has 40 feet. I do think that 25 is too narrow because 25 is only like in a perfect world when you don't have dangerous trees and you don't have steep slopes and you don't need to put in a driveway
I
culvert.
agree. Yeah.
Because it's your driveway might only be 12 feet wide, but you need more than 6 feet on either side to take care of those other issues. So perhaps
completely
you don't
agree.
need 50, but more than 25.
I completely agree. Like my driveway is 1,500 feet long. My neighbor's is freaking 3,000, and it does get very narrow, and it's at 50 feet. We got trees and all kinds of other things on the
And
other side of
storing
the
your
road.
snow,
Yeah, exactly.
no plowing.
So I'm in favor of the 50.
Okay, so
Now
I,
it's just,
I agree with Brian. I'm on a 50. My driveway's about 900 feet, and the snow comment from Janet for sure. I mean, that you need an apron to pull into,
yeah,
and I think that 50 feet.
okay. So sentence number 1, you guys are generally happy with?
yeah.
The driveway access to interior lots shall be 50 feet wide. Sentence number 2, I want to look at that. If, however, the area of such lot shall exceed twice the area requirements of the zone in which the area is located, such right of access to said area shall be at least 50 feet wide and 20 feet wide sloping right areas shall be reserved on the lots adjacent to the access if considered necessary by the commission. Do we need this?
20.
I mean, if the motivation here is that it could have implications for future town accepted roads.
It would also apply to private roads. I mean, grading rights on other lot to make a safe shared driveway, a safe private road, or a safe public road could be required if it's steep terrain. It's not only public roads. I think the sloping right areas is a little confusing. I mean, could you just say 20, if you want to maintain the intent, you could put 20-foot wide grading easements.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
And it could be at your discretion, because if it's very flat land, you might say it's not necessary in this case.
And we do have that here. Okay, so maybe that is enough,
Yeah,
that
I think so.
change. If, however, the area of such lot shall exceed twice the area requirements of the zone in which the area is located, such right of access, except we call them districts now. District 12. The district in which it is the area is located, such right of access to said area shall be at least 50 feet wide, Oxford, comma, and 20 feet wide grading easements shall be reserved on the lots adjacent to the access if considered necessary by the commission. I think that is an excellent use of the Oxford comma.
yeah.
Okay,
You're here.
all right. 5, there shall be no driveways to interior lots on the turnaround portion of a cul-de-sac. And again, we've got a comment from Dave Held here. If it's a private road not maintained by the town, let this be up to the developer. That seems logical. But again, Dave is basing his comment on what I have stated should be our preference that cul-de-sacs only be private roads. I know that is not universally held by members of this commission, including our friend Dave Poplawski, who's here on this call.
Touche.
Well, this is me giving you an opportunity to speak on this matter, Mr. Poplawski.
I agree to leave it up to the developer. I don't see where it should be limiting. But as stated, I do believe cul-de-sacs could be town roads and can be private as well.
All right, I'm going to toss something in here, but I'm going to revisit it. We're going to be coming back to this cul-de-sac issue. I will guarantee you, but I'm just going to add this underneath.
Alvin, can you think of an instance where that applies, or Janet? I mean, I don't have a problem with it, but I'm just thinking that fundamentally it was there for a reason.
Yeah, can I here we go, Brian. I don't, why just interior lots? I guess I philosophically don't understand some of the ways interior lots are treated completely different than other lots.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, some days I understand it and some days I don't. I got to be totally honest. Sometimes people explain this stuff to me from their perspective and I go, oh yeah, that makes some sense. I know I could tell you the reason not to want a million interior lots, like interior lots stacked behind interior lots.
Yeah, but that's not what this is, right?
No, it's not.
Like if it's a safety issue, then it's all driveways. If it's another issue, I don't know what it is.
One comment I can make that if you allow interior drives off the end of a cul-de-sac, then basically you're saying you're allowed to have 50 feet of frontage for any lot in a cul-de-sac, because people will just make a spider web out.
Okay,
So that's the effect.
okay. See, now I understand.
Except the frontage requirement is what the frontage requirement is. So that you can only fit as many as your
But-
linear frontage allows.
Because the access strips for interior lots only need to be 50 feet, right?
50 feet,
Oh,
yeah.
right, because we're on interior lots again.
So you'll have like 50 foot, 50 foot, 50 foot, and you'll have a bunch of spider legs coming out the end of the cul-de-sac.
Okay, that does, thank you. That makes sense to me.
Well, let me finish this thought and then we can stew on it.
I mean, yeah, there could be a limit. There could be, or if you have shared driveways and you allow a certain number of lots off a, yeah, I don't know. You could have some kind of limit, like no more than two
Two or
off a
three,
cul-de-sac
yeah.
or something.
Yeah, because Woodstock has that. There's definitely driveways off cul-de-sacs. My friend lives on one.
To an interior lot. Brian?
Driveways to interior lots.
Yeah. Is it, and you just have to do this, the snow management and, that all has to be planned out before they start doing the spider legs out, right? They can't go too deep into the cul-de-sac.
And I really screwed us by bringing up the interior lot thing. Jesus, all of a sudden it was like in our face.
Well, it's not like we did it special for you, Brian. It just came up in
right.
order.
Yeah, my God.
You wanted it in the beginning.
That's
Yeah,
right. That's
Get out of
right.
the way.
Okay, construction of driveway drainage facilities shall be completed prior to issuance of a certificate of occupancy or town acceptance of the roads, whichever come first. It's fine. Driveway entrances onto heavily traveled roads are discouraged and wherever possible should be laid out and designed to enter onto lightly traveled roads. okay. I guess I don't have any particular principle in which I disagree, although I will say that we have properties eligible for subdivision on routes 12 and 131, which are our most heavily traveled roads. So
Yeah, what is the definition of, I mean, it's not like we're coming off of 395 here.
yeah, no driveways shall
I don't
shall
understand where that would
open onto
apply.
Route 395.
I mean, what is a heavily traveled road in that regard? 131 is a heavily traveled road, but
Yeah. I'm gonna flag that because what I can see this leading to is somebody saying, you know, Route 12 or Route 131 are heavily traveled, and then forcing people to create little side streets, right? Something that would empty out onto,
Yeah.
You know, some connector road unnecessarily.
mm, yeah, I can see that happening. Yeah, create their
Yeah.
own road and then have it.
So
something
that,
up there.
actually works against the idea of limiting the number of new town accepted roads. Right? There's no real problem with having a driveway on routes 12 or 131 in most areas. Right? The people who live on them get in and out of them perfectly adequately, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, people's regular driveways are on 131. What's the difference?
Yeah, I think we can probably strike that because it sets people up to propose kooky little small roads. Driveways to all lots should be constructed to provide adequate year-round access for emergency vehicles. Okay. The commission requires slopes not to exceed 12% and all weather passable surfaces not less than 10 feet wide. Driveways shall be shown so that vehicles can turn around on the lot and not back up into the street. Sidebar comment here from Dave Held suggesting 15%, which works fine in practice and avoids unnecessary grading. Janet, do you concur?
This whole section on driveways, I think is a little choppy, and I really like the, if you're gonna institute shared driveways, I like that really good language from Killingly, and they.
Yeah,
and
I was
they-
gonna bring that up as soon as we were done with these 10
Yeah.
numbers.
Well, they allow up to 14% in for short stretches, and I do think that's reasonable for a driveway, because otherwise, you know, there's a lot more cuts and fills, and that's just more trees and more land disturbance, so. But our driveway ordinance right now does say 12% in Thompson.
Yeah, but
Oh, so we might be stuck with this unless we're gonna amend,
Yeah, the ordinance.
so.
But you might want to visit that.
I mean, that's awful steep, 14%. Oh, gee.
I think.
So is this
mean,
one of those situations where we want to just connect to the town ordinance?
Yeah, I would agree. I wouldn't want to write any percentage here to say see town ordinance.
Yeah, yeah.
And if we can get, you know, if yeah, could start a conversation about if the ordinance should be changed.
Okay. Yeah, and then driveways shall be constructed in accordance with the driveway ordinance of the town of Thompson and these regulations. So yeah, there's your point right there. I just want to see what Dave's comment is here. I don't know what the ordinance specifies, but I would suggest somewhere specifying a requirement for shared driveways along the lines of a 16-foot wide travel surface. They should not be required to be built to town road standards, particularly if they aren't serving a large number of lots. Okay, so that is a segue. I'm going to stop sharing this. We've got 45 minutes to talk about shared driveways, and it's all we're going to talk about for the rest of the night. I can find it. I think that's this. Yep. All right. So Janet sent me this afternoon. These are the Town of Killingly subdivision regulations, which include an entire section on what they call common, but we have referred to as shared driveways. I think I may have sent this to you guys as well.
No,
Did I not, Alvin?
no, you didn't.
I mean, not Janet's copy, but the original. Okay, I will do that because I know I've got them. So let's just read through them and see how we feel, because I did like them as well, just based on the clarity of language, if nothing else. So, no building or structure to be served by a newly constructed or relocated private or common driveway shall be used or occupied in whole or in part until such driveway has been constructed in accordance with the specifications and requirements hereinafter set forth, and a permit therefore approved by the engineering department. Okay,
Which we do not
which
have.
we don't have.
Right, you would have to put the Director of Public Works or Thompson Road Ordinance in some of
Right.
these places.
Right, so substituting wherever we don't have a given
Sure.
department with what the appropriate one is. All driveway entrances, aprons, shall be constructed in accordance with the Town of Thompson
Yep, got it.
standards from the driveway ordinance in this case. If the intersecting street is unpaved and is not planned for pavement within 5 years, the apron need not be paved. No certificate of compliance or occupancy will be issued for the dwelling or building until such time as the driveway and apron are constructed in accordance with town standards. In the event that the season or weather prohibits the required driveway construction, including paving, a bond in lieu of the work may be accepted by the town. However, under no circumstances shall a certificate of compliance or occupancy be issued if it is deemed by the appropriate town staff that safe and reasonable emergency access cannot be attained without the required improvements.
I like that.
That makes perfect sense.
I
Yeah,
like it.
I like that.
Okay. Oh, I see plagiarism in my future. All newly constructed or relocated private and shared driveways shall be constructed in accordance with the following specifications. Driveways may not exceed an average grade of 12% and at no point greater than 14%. Okay, so there's the 12 and the 14. The
It's awfully
maximum,
steep.
what'd you say, Alvin?
I just say it's incredibly steep. Mine's 8% and it's steep.
Okay. All right. All right, but right now we know that 12 is the ordinance anyway. So this is the maximum slope of the first 30 feet of the drive measured from the edge of the traveled way into the property may not exceed 3%. A sufficient drainage system shall be installed to prevent the runoff of water or other material from said driveways onto the intersecting street. Hey, Janet, as a sidebar, is this an appropriate place to mention LID? Or green infrastructure?
I think there's in the storm drainage, like just when you talk about drainage for subdivisions would be
The better place?
most-
Okay,
the better, or I mean, you can sprinkle it anywhere you want, but will have to be like a whole section on it for MS4.
right, okay.
This is a point of note that first 30 feet at 3%. I don't think that's gonna work for us here. That's for sure.
Meaning what specifically?
I just don't think that, I mean, my driveway doesn't have that. My neighbor's driveway doesn't have that. There's several driveways I know that don't have that. Maximum slope of the first 30 feet of an edge of traveled way into a property may not exceed 3%.
I mean, you could make it 20 feet, but that's what the state's regulation is for driveways off a state road. And the purpose is so that, the vehicle is kind of on the flat. And not-
Flat, yeah, I got it. Yeah. I
When
understand.
you're trying to pull out into the road, but I mean, obviously this is a guidance in Thompson, if they felt it's
Yeah.
more reasonable to say 20 feet instead of 30 feet.
Yeah, as far as state roads, I would agree with for sure. Okay, just making the point.
I think that was consistent with, because I think their paved apron in Killingly is 30 feet and Thompson's is 20 feet. So there would have to be coordination
Right.
between the
I'm
road
making
ordinance.
handwritten notes here since I can't make notes into this document. So if I'm slow, that's why I'm being a little slow. Okay, so, but I have a note there, Brian, based on your observation. 3, the center line of a driveway entrance shall intersect the street as near to a right angle as is practicable for a distance of at least 30 feet back from the traveled portion of the intersecting street. But the angle of intersection of the center line of the driveway entrance with such street shall not be less than 75 degrees nor more than 105 degrees. It's pretty consistent with the road standards for intersections.
Yep.
And again, right angles are safe angles. Oops, this is jumping around more than I want. A driveway intersecting a street shall have a minimum sight distance in each direction in accordance with the, whatever that stands for, policy on geometric design of highways and streets of 2018, or as amended and as satisfactory to the Director of Public Works. Was there another reason you circled this in yellow?
Well, but I circled anything in yellow that was in conflict with Thompson's driveway ordinance. And Thompson has an actual number, so they don't, I think it's 275 feet. This is, I guess, a more flexible standard because AASHTO is like the Bible of DOTs and engineers when it comes to sightline. It stands for the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials. So if you had a high-speed road, you would need more sight distance. If you have a low-speed gravel road, you would need less sight distance. And Thompson, I believe it just has a number, like 275 feet.
Okay.
So there would have to be coordination with the driveway ordinance.
All right. More notes to myself. All driveways shall be of satisfactory construction and have sufficient clearance from vegetation and cut and fill banks to allow safe and reasonable passage for passenger service and emergency vehicles. Okay. Oops. All driveways shall have a turnaround on the lot capable of handling an SU-30 vehicle and located not less than 10 feet from property lines in residential areas. And Janet's note here is to add over 150 feet long.
And that's to make it more consistent with Thompson's driveway ordinance. They have a different standard. They have something, if it's over 150 feet, you need to be wider, you need to have better turnaround radiuses, so that would make it more consistent. But I'm sorry, I didn't cross this off, but in Killingly, all driveways have to be 10 feet from property line. So that's why that second phrase is in there.
I see.
So you,
Okay. So the second phrase,
about not less than 10 feet from the property lines, like we don't have that in our
Maybe
zoning.
strike that.
okay, so that would be a strike, and then just all
Right.
driveways over 150 feet long shall have a turnaround on the lot capable of handling an SU-30 vehicle. Okay, I got you. You've suggested striking there number 7, all driveways over 200 feet long, in addition to the conventional vehicle turnaround described in this subsection, shall be provided with a suitable turnaround area for whatever. The area need not be to driveway construction specifications, but must be reasonably level, free from ornamental plantings, and otherwise suitable for turning around larger vehicles. It seems unnecessary to me too, but well, but it's unnecessary because, you're here at
Yeah,
150,
feet.
200 is like a ridiculously small increment to then. Okay, so that logic makes sense to me.
Peter, can I just go back to the 10-foot? So if you have 2 driveways going up, 2 shared driveways, let's say 10, so the driveway is 50 feet wide.
Mhm.
Let's say it's paved. Okay, no, I did the math in my head. I'm good.
Excellent. All driveways over 500 feet long must be provided with at least one vehicle bypass area. turnout, of sufficient construction methods, including length, width, and clearances to allow the safe and reasonable passing and or standing of passenger service and emergency vehicles. Okay.
Good.
All driveways shall be designed and constructed to prevent surface runoff from discharging to the traveled portion of public roads. Some of this is redundant to what we already saw, but I'll cut and paste as applicable. Wherever practicable and feasible, the runoff should be diverted away from the town road right of way. Driveway aprons must be designed to prevent runoff from public roads from discharging onto the driveway or adjacent property. Privately owned and maintained drainage systems associated with driveway construction shall be utilized to the greatest extent possible. Culverts, if required, shall be a minimum of, we have 12 inches. What's RCP?
Reinforced concrete pipe.
Thank you. You've got that circled in yellow, so that's to make it consistent with the driveway ordinance again, Janet.
Actually, I made it more inconsistent. I think in zoning, there's some other minimum pipe size is 12 inches. And that's a DOT standard is 12 inches, 15 inches is a little bit old school from before the days when people did calculations.
Okay.
Yeah, 12 is more of a common size anyway.
Okay. Whenever a private drainage swale or private detention area is utilized in diverting driveway water from the town right of way, the owner of the subject lot or lots shall be responsible for maintaining the swale or detention area and culverts in accordance with the approved design. To ensure proper maintenance, no dwelling certificate of compliance or occupancy shall be issued on the subject lot until a deed restriction approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission or its agent is filed on the land records. Said deed restrictions shall clearly note the maintenance responsibility and, subject to proper notification by the town, shall allow the town to undertake any necessary maintenance activity and bill the property owner for expenses.
There's no time limit on that.
It's an interesting observation.
Yeah,
What are we saying? They're gonna clean it out every 10 years? Every year, every 5 years?
That's an excellent observation, Alvin. You said it's clear to maintenance responsibility. Subject to proper notification shall have the.
Well, it says in accordance with the approved design.
Yeah, I think that's the out, but it is
Yeah.
fuzzy.
Yeah,
So I've got that here in my notes as something to maybe look at. Driveway side slopes in a cut or fill section shall not exceed 2:1 unless physical structural barriers at the shoulder acceptable to the commission and to the Public Works Director are utilized. You've got 2:1 there in yellow, Janet.
yes. The current driveway ordinance, I believe, has a slope of 3 horizontal to 1 vertical, which is actually very flat and nobody does. So this is just definitely more practical. It's more consistent with road design.
But in conflict with the road or the
But in
driveway
conflict.
ordinance.
Correct.
Okay. Because I will guarantee you that there's not going to be any movement to alter the driveway ordinance anytime soon. So we have to consider some of those as fixed.
Mhm. Yep.
This is jumping around too much. During construction of all dwellings and buildings, the driveways must be installed and maintained in such a manner so as to provide reasonable access to the dwelling by emergency vehicles. The access may not be blocked by construction-related delivery or service vehicles. Seems reasonable. Driveways shall be of such size, grade, and shape to allow at least 2 cars to be parked beyond the limits of the town right-of-way line. Also seems reasonable. And this is struck. All driveways and turnarounds shall be set back a minimum of, because of Killingly's 10-foot requirement. Is that why you struck that?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we'll just, that doesn't apply. When culverts or other drainage systems shall be required to control the flow of water. 1, if the water shunted by such culverts or drainage systems establishes a flow of water onto an adjoining parcel of land, a permanent drainage easement shall be obtained. Seems reasonable. If the water shall enter a street culvert system, permission from the town, the Connecticut Department of Transportation and or Property Owners Association, whichever is applicable, shall be obtained to use such culvert. Also seems reasonable. Minimum separation between, those are struck again because of Killingly requirements that don't apply, I assume.
That, and it just seemed redundant,
Okay,
covered elsewhere, but that's, up to you guys.
okay. Well, I don't want to be redundant. Okay, so now we get to my favorite, shared driveways. Well, we've got 27 whole minutes to talk about this. That's fantastic. Shared driveways serving more than one dwelling unit are encouraged, especially when interior rear lots are proposed and at cul-de-sacs. Common driveways may serve up to 5 dwelling units and shall be paved with bituminous concrete, gravel, or substantial permeable material. So Brian, this gets to the point that you were making last time when you were saying, what's to stop a shared driveway essentially from becoming a subdivision of its own, right?
Sure.
So Killingly limits it to 5. I've had other people suggest 3. So these are things we can consider. Final design is site specific. Blah, blah, blah. All newly constructed or relocated common driveways shall be constructed in accordance with the Connecticut DOT Form 818. I assume that is a correct correction, as amended from time to time with certification by a licensed professional engineer. The certificates of compliance or occupancy for the buildings or structure to be served by such driveway shall not be issued by the building official until the engineer, until the Department of Public Works or Public Works Director verifies that it has received such certification and that an as-built of the driveway has been received.
That's really an important sentence, because this is kind of what protects like people buying driveways on, if somebody put in a really bad driveway, the first person in without proper sub base, and it causes a really big problem. This basically requires that the engineer inspect the driveway, because it's going to serve multiple residents, and if they use proper materials, and then they have to write a certification to the town that they've done an as-built survey, they've inspected it. And so for the 5 people, that gives them some peace of mind, and the town.
Okay, I like that. I mean, I definitely showed these to Rich, and Rich also was pretty happy with them when I had looked at them the first time. Okay, so here we go. The shared portion of the driveway shall be a minimum of 16 feet in width unless waived by the commission. There shall be at least 30 feet of paved driveway into the property for common driveways intersecting a paved road. And you've got this here because this is in conflict with the driveway ordinance.
Right, we have 20 feet.
Okay. As long as I know that this is the conflict, and I think you mentioned that elsewhere, then I'll know where to look.
Yeah.
All common driveways with slopes over 10% shall be paved to a minimum width of 16 feet, or as the Director of Public Works directs, with bituminous concrete or equivalent. The pavement cross-section in such cases shall consist of 6-inch rolled gravel subbase, or as required by DPW, whatever these are in the driveway ordinance, compacted processed gravel, compacted bituminous concrete class 1 pavement binder course. Non-shared portions must be at least 12 feet in width and constructed as below for private driveways. Common driveways may not serve as a connecting driveway between 2 public streets or private laneways, and must be wholly contained within an access strip with a minimum width of 50 feet throughout. I'm having a little trouble visualizing that. Common driveways may not serve as a connecting
Shared
driveway. What'd you say, Alvin?
Shared driveways, not common.
Well, right. I'm just, it's easier to read this, but yes, we refer to them as shared. May not serve as a connecting driveway between 2 public streets or private laneways, private access ways. And must be wholly contained. So you can't use a driveway as a street is what that's saying.
Yeah, I'm imagining like creating your own cul-de-sac with a driveway. Like you have two streets that come like this, and you're connecting two of them in here, and then having another driveway off of that. I mean, I think that's kind of far and few between, but that's the way I'm reading it.
Yeah. Yeah, to me, it's just like a driveway is not a street.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Not sure how I feel about that particular set of language, but it might be fine. It just might be my brain. All shared driveways are to be maintained by either a homeowners association or through the establishment of private maintenance and liability agreements, and are to remain private in perpetuity in a form acceptable to the commission, which shall be subject to review by the director, by town council. Appropriate easements shall be provided for travel, utilities, snow storage, and pull-off. I think that's the safety language that we've been seeking for to head off the concerns that people have.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah, okay. Private unshared driveways. Well, all driveways are private. Let me see what this is. All newly constructed or relocated driveways shall be constructed. That seems kind of redundant to
Yes.
earlier sections, so I don't think we need to deal with that. And then,
Yeah, they do have nice details that illustrate the intent.
okay,
And they have, this first one is for single driveways, and then they have this one below is for the shared or common driveways on the second sheet of paper.
so Janet, if we were to ask you very nicely to create something like this, since I don't have CAD or anything like it, to include as an appendix specific to Thompson, would you be able to do that?
Yes, I think what I would do is ask, Killingly probably did it in CAD, and I think they'd probably be happy and flattered to hear that you like their regulations so much that you'd like to use their details, so, yeah.
While you're on the phone with them, ask them for their definition of interior lots, please.
I'm pretty sure that we could go find them ourselves online.
Yeah, the only things we would have to update the differences.
Yeah.
Right.
And I do want to say in their subdivision book, one of the next sections after this is on road standards, and it's also, it would need to be tailored for Thompson, but it's also very, very good, in my opinion.
So the road standards, I'm gonna stop sharing this. Well, actually, before we get to that, before I stop sharing this, does anybody have anything they want to comment on this text? And I will send this memo with Janet's markups to everybody tomorrow. I'm pretty sure that I feel like I did send these out, but the markups more helpful anyway.
I think you did send these to her because this is very familiar.
Yeah.
I just have one. Can you go back up to number 2, I believe up the top section where it talked about the drainage? I thought it was going to be, I didn't ask the question because I thought it was going to be, yeah, a sufficient drainage system shall be installed to prevent the runoff of water or other material from said driveways onto the intersecting street. So Janet, it doesn't really say who approves that sufficient drainage system as it's listed.
I mean, in Killingly, it would be the town engineering department. They would look to see that you were having swales or paved leak-offs or rain gardens, and not just having, a steep paved road, steep paved driveway, drain right into a town road. In practice, I think engineers do that mostly, and when the plans are submitted to Rich Benoit, I guess that's kind of who the agent of the town who looks at driveways is.
I mean, that's consistent with most of the rest of this. We've swapped out DPW director for town engineer.
Yeah,
Did
it
I
just
answer?
didn't call it out specifically in this section that, that Rich was signing off on the drainage system or, some of this other stuff, the driveways not to exceed, that's, that's going to be on the plans, but I didn't know if there was a requirement for, certified engineer and approved by the town, or, it didn't call it out specifically. Some of the other, 3, 4, 5, those are easily done.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is a drainage is, can always be kind of like a judgment, how many calculations you need to make versus just practical application.
Okay. It didn't call, like 4 is called out Director of Public Works.
Yeah,
It
you
did.
could add that in.
Yeah, I've got it here in my note, in my
Okay.
handwritten notes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to go back. I wasn't sure if it was detailed further down.
No worries. That's why we're here. Anybody else have anything in the section about to be plagiarized from the town of Killingly?
Yeah, just go down to the reinforced concrete pipe again. I just want to read that again.
If I can find it.
Yeah, you just passed it.
Did I?
Yeah. It's keep on going. Right there.
There it is. There it is. All driveways shall be designed and constructed to prevent surface runoff from discharging to the traveled portion of public roads. Wherever practicable and feasible, the runoff should be diverted away from the town road right of way. Driveway aprons must be designed to prevent runoff from public roads from discharging onto the driveway or adjacent property. Privately owned and maintained drainage systems associated with driveway construction shall be utilized to the greatest extent possible. Culverts, if required, shall be a minimum of 12 inches reinforced concrete pipe.
So on my house for wetlands goes underneath my driveway, but it's HDPE 12-inch. I mean,
Yeah.
I think HDPE is more appropriate here, right, Jan? Which is for the group is high density polyurethane piping.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
It
is
could
that
be
an
either.
either or?
Was that because they're driving over it
Yes.
in the apron?
I-
'Cause you have
I think
pavement over it?
I think it's an either or because the HDPE is designed for, truck traffic and heavy loading as well.
Yeah.
It's just more
It's just-
modern, like.
Yeah, it's a
Brian-
lot cheaper too, for the
Yeah.
record.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
It should be
I think you should just
And
change it.
HDPE stands for high density
Polyethylene piping.
polyethylene piping.
This is your black corrugated pipe, just really thick.
And the town allows that in roads like that.
Yeah,
the
sure,
Road
sure.
that Jason's building is all that.
Yeah, it has H20 loading, so it's a vehicular piping.
Okay. Good catch, Brian. Anything else in this little snippet of Killingly's subdivision regulations, guys?
I'm good.
All right, let me pull back up. Oh, where's my share screen? So that brings us up to, let's see how much we have left in this section that's related to streets in 15 minutes. Monuments, special structures, street and traffic signs, street trees, sidewalks. I feel like sidewalks is a whole separate discussion. And I think street trees should actually be a part of sidewalks and not streets. So let's just get through this page and then call it a wrap. Anything here? Monuments shall be provided on both street right-of-way lines at all angle points of curvature and tangent. At least 2 monuments shall be provided for each 800 feet of street. Monuments shall be made of concrete and shall be not less than 5 inches square by 30 inches in length with a suitable marked top. Each monument shall be set in place after all street construction is completed with the marked point set on the point of reference. That seems fairly straightforward to me. I don't know if there's anything in that that has changed in standard since these were last published.
I don't,
Sounds good.
Okay. Special structures, bridges, box culverts, deep manholes, dikes, and other special structures shall be designed in accordance with state of Connecticut engineering practices and acceptable to the commission or its designated agent. Okay. Street and traffic signs. Oh, this was a fairly simple comment. Street name signs of approved construction shall be installed at all street intersections and locations approved by the Board of Selectmen, but Dave points out, is that actually Director of Public Works? I think the answer is probably correct in all of these cases. I would add, and it just occurred to me now, I'm gonna move people down here. Include a provision that private roads be marked with signs indicating private way, so that people have no expectation that a plow is coming down that road. And that is the convention where private roads are permitted.
Public. Public plow trucks, not private.
Well, yes, yes. The town's not going to be coming down your road if it says private way, which is what we have to get to.
Should Rich be the one who, it seems like in this, we're letting the developer, assume what street signs are needed. Should Rich be on the involved beforehand in telling them, or wait till the end?
Well, let's go back up to some of the standards. And see if anything gets mentioned here. Standards, street planning. Let's zoom through these fast. Yeah, I mean, that is the only, well, the street names.
Yeah.
Streets shall bear names which do not duplicate as streets which extend or are in alignment with existing shall bear the names. All street names shall be subject to the approval of the commission, but that doesn't actually. Let's go back here. Street name signs of approved construction shall be installed at all street intersections in locations approved by whomever, but at all street intersections, right? That's where you have a street sign. Is it a street?
Yeah, I didn't know, like a pedestrian crossing or, anything.
Traffic signs, not street signs.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, traffic, I'm sorry.
Okay, no, that makes more sense. So this, I think, first of all, is unnecessary because they're going to be located at street intersections. That's the location. But such signs shall be of design and material approved by the.
Shouldn't it be the director of?
Yep.
You're right.
So sentence 2 is what you're talking about, Dave. Traffic signs as required by the Director of Public Works. Of regulation, size, shape, and material. And embedded in concrete shall be installed prior to town acceptance of subdivision.
So
Roads.
Yeah, that answers it, Tira.
Okay, all right. Okay. All right, and then, there's one that's down here. Prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for any structure on a new street, either the street signs as specified above or temporary street signs on a post 8 feet high shall be installed. Okay, I have no quarrel with that. Although if you're going to be putting up temporary street signs, why wouldn't you just be putting up the street signs? But I guess there's occasions when that might be feasible. All right, anybody have anything else they want to go over in this section? And we'll pick up with street trees and sidewalks next Monday. Oops. I actually think we got quite a bit done, and I'll have a lot to feather in from those Killingly shared drives for consideration. But now is the time. Anything anybody want to go back over?
All good here.
All right. Looks good to me. So next one is a week from tonight. And I'll have to see if John Lanky's been trying to email me to let him in because he hasn't missed many of these. I think all four of you guys are a go for next Monday, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Dave?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brian? Okay, and I'll
I'm double
reconfirm.
checking right now.
Okay.
Yeah, right now, yes. Yep.
Okay. All right, because I think sidewalks is going to be a topic of some interest. And yeah, fantastic. Look at that, 7 minutes to spare.
Oh,
Excellent.
You guys are
what I'm
rock
gonna do with
stars.
myself.
With that, I will, as we move to agenda item number 3, I will entertain a motion.
I'll motion.
Mr. Santos moves, we adjourn.
I will second.
Mr. Poplawski seconds. The meeting is adjourned at 8:53 p.m. Thank you, everyone. Brian,
Yes.
I have a funky looking email in my inbox from you
Just tonight, right now.
about like 6:30.
Yeah, I think that was, 6:30?
I think that's what it said. Hold
Are,
on.
are you asking Brian if he actually sent you an email or are you trying to figure out if it's spam?
Correct.
Share your screen. Show me what I'm sending you, Joe.
I
I'm
will-
interested.
Yeah.
Is it good stuff?
Phone. It
No,
says
here-
my father would always say work is.
Yeah, it's Dave, Alvin, Tira, me, and I think that's it.
Oh, it's the map. It's the PDF, Joe. It's the
Oh.
PDF of the roads that are private or non.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm just surprised at the time that when you said 6:30, we didn't start this till 7. I
Right.
said that at 7:30.
But it definitely says 6:30 on my.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, my technology group, they like to throw people for a loop on the time I send shit.
Okay, yeah, that's what threw me because you did announce that you had forwarded that to us.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
mine's